7:03 p.m. Everyone please rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call roll, please. Stern.
Here.
Clark. Yes. Conan.
Here.
Bullock.
Here.
Ballard.
Here.
Cooper. Here. Audie.
Here. Sign that in, man.
Okay, everyone has their agenda in front of them tonight. We would like to add something under new business. We're going to move it up to letter A, and it's going to be the PLT Four Corner Sale. Which is with, it's Hale Camp, PLT. Are there any other additions, deletions, or is there a motion at this time?
I'll move as amended.
Motion by Mr. Audie, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Conan. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next is citizen comment. We have Mr. Don Brown here from the Macomb County Commissioner, District 7. I want to address the board.
Hello, good evening. I'm happy July for you. Just want to thank you for having me here today. Nice to be here with our former colleague, Prosecutor Rowling, who joins us tonight coming out to ARMADA. I'm here to touch base with you on the Macomb Orchard Trails. We've been having some discussions back and forth between the Trail Commission and the Village of ARMADA about trying to improve the property by the park. And seems to be right on track. I just wanted to here to touch base and answer any questions and or concerns you might have about that. It's, both the lawyers have had a little bit and they're wanting to tweak the language a little bit so that once the commission approves the lease, the long-term release, gallery or something like that, and they're agreed to let you lease the property and build on what you need to do. There's no money for the Trail Commission has to build anything for the trail just yet. We only build things and add things on the trails. We have grant dollars to do them with, and that's how we're going to continue to operate. However, we'd like to work with you in the future. If you need to apply for a grant or something else to develop that in the future phases if you needed to, our Planning and Economic Development Department stands ready to work with you to put together a grant application to the MDNR Trust Fund, which would be a perfect project to do anything with those for that matter. But if you want to use that for that particular parcel of the park, we definitely would welcome to work with you on that. It's on the agenda for the Trail Commission this month, and we'll discuss it and work it over a little bit, make sure that Ben will be there, I'm sure, and we'll talk about making sure we get it done once, right, so we can go and approve it, and then any work that needs to be done will be done without, much delay. So that's all I have, but it's going to come together, it's going to get done. These things take time because we got to touch on a bunch of bases and cross a bunch of T's and I's, but it's going to come together, and I'm pretty confident of that. And just wanted to, is there any feedback from any members of the council or anything on that? Did have all ears.
Anyone have any questions?
Would you give your contact on?
Yes. Again, Ben's been right there all along through the whole process, and we're going to continue to work through Ben. And you guys want to come to touch base with the council person. I've been here before, but it's been a while. I just want to make sure that I don't want to get out in front of anything you're doing. Let you know that we're wanting to work with you.
When you were here before, you guys are going to pay for the project and take care of the project, and then that whole thing fell apart. And
Yeah,
now,
well,
basically, Ben and some other people are doing this project.
That's right. Well, that's right, because the Trail Commission only has, we don't have any money to do that right now, and it would take an extended period of time for us to get some money. And the commission's going to work to allow us to use the property and develop it. Ben's put together, seems to be a good team of a basic, park. And really, it's all that's really needed, quite frankly. Put some benches there. We're going to work with it.
Have you always been on the Trail Commission?
Not always. I was very proactive when we put the trail and bought the property. I was on the negotiation team that purchased the property from the railroad company back when it started. And then 2 years after it was set up, I went on the Trail Commission. I've been on there ever since.
Because I think sometimes it wasn't understood very well by some of the members of the Trail Commission. I'd like you to, if you could pass this on, But when this whole thing got started and as it was progressing, the township of Armada opted not to be involved whatsoever. And they weren't involved with the trail as far as I understand, at least township government. But the village always was involved, attended just about all the meetings. We had a couple members, Kurt Curtis and Nancy Parmenter, and we had input into the trail and were always involved with the trail. The one thing we wouldn't do and couldn't do was belly up $25,000 for our mile of, or whatever was in the village, less than a mile. But the thing of it is, some people think that Armada opted out totally, and we were always involved.
No, I
Yeah, the
understand
village
that.
has always been very supportive of the trail.
You know, I understand that. And it's really become an economic engine. A lot of people are using the trail that have come out to the north end of Macomb County, they've never been out here before. And they're discovering, hey, this is a nice community to be out here. And what do? They park their bikes and go in town and spend a few dollars, you know, on things and shops and stores and pop and dinner and what have you. And so it's been a great thing. And, yeah, we're looking at ways to try to expand membership and go on with that. That's still a little touchy subject. I mean, my personal opinion, this is kind of the whole tribe. I like the idea of membership and getting involved on that because it's really a county trail. It's good for everyone there. But, you know, communities did step up and put a lot of money together. So if there's any money available to do things in their community, they say, well, remember our $25,000. And that's kind of what we're running to do a little bit from time to time. But it doesn't make any difference. This is going to get done. We've done it before. You know, we're going to lease the property. It's going to get built with Ben's help and the volunteers and the things he's put together. And if we want to go on and, you know, and do something beyond that, we can certainly do that using other grant funds that I'll help you secure working with the village if you want to.
So included with this parking lot, we can put up a couple benches, and we do have a resident that made a sign that just says Armada. Are we able to put all that on the drawing? Remember we talked
Yes.
about,
We saw the
Yes.
sign.
Yes.
You were here that
So-
night.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we want to include all that stuff in the original agreement, so we just
Correct.
go ahead and get it all, so everyone understands what's going to go in there
okay,
and will understand it, so.
perfect.
So we'll work with that. It'll get done. I mean, nothing goes smooth. With Village Romeo Trailside Park, got the road commission to lease the land to the trail commission for $1 a year. But that had a building out of it. It had some issues with the site that had to be cleaned up. We got that all cleaned up, but there are a lot of issues legally between the road commission and the village that had issues that were going back long standing that had to be worked out. There are some environmental issues on the site that had to be worked out. So a bunch of other things that delayed the process. We have none of that here, so this is a pretty easy deal, really, all things considered. We just gotta make sure everyone understands we're on the same page, and we'll get it done. So I'm very confident of that, and it'll be another asset to the community, and we'll build from there.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Brown? All right, thank you so much for your time.
And all my cards, if you need anything, get a question for me, certainly email me or call me, and I'll be right there for you. Thank you very much.
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Are there any other public comments? Yes, Mr. Gordon.
So we'll be at the Trail Commission on Thursday, and kind of to answer Mr. Conan's thing, Mr. Brown has been supportive of this all the time. And the thing about, you know, when he came in with guy from the road commission, John Crum, when he came in and said that they were going to pay for it, really I think that was their intent, but there was a couple of people on the commission that kiboshed the whole thing. So, and really those people are, and you're right, the Trail Commission has confused Armada Township with the Armada Village. And at a couple of meetings I tried to set them straight, but it's hard to get that across when they already have that mindset. But I think after Thursday's meeting, hopefully we can have that agreement with the benches and the bike racks and the signage, so everything will be ready for your approval next time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Oh, and I would like some help, so if anybody'd like to call me, can I?
Please.
784-9853. So I need volunteers and I need money. So,
Perfect.
okay?
Thank
Thanks.
you. Are there any other public comments? Any other public comments? Hearing none, we have presentations tonight for for recognition and certificates of appreciation. If you want to step up, Detective James Sharp and Technical Service Officer Julie Beakey. Mr. Wallach, did you want to come join me up here, please?
Yes,
She has to read for me.
Yeah, I was going to call. Chief, you want to come up here,
Chief
please?
is also here too, so.
Yes, she.
Oh, thanks. Do you want me to come up over there?
Please. That way the camera can get you.
She was not in a dress. She should be in a dress.
Well, actually, we have to thank the Romeo Police Department for giving us TSO Beakey back because she's actually at work right now for another municipality. Anyhow, what this has to do with is in March 2011, an unidentified caller contacted the Armada Police Department wanting to leave information about a murder for hire in the Armada area, but did not want to get involved and did not want to give specific enough information for an accurate investigation. Technical Service Officer Julie Beakey was calm, patient, and concerned enough to work with the caller and ultimately develop a rapport with the caller and acquired his first name and a telephone number. TSO Beakey needed to contact the caller on a number of occasions, and developed a trust with the caller that convinced him to work with law enforcement and to set up an introduction with an undercover officer. Detective James R. Sharp took the caller's information and his networking with prior colleague, Detective Sergeant John Glass of the County of Macomb Enforcement Team, Comet, worked in unison to establish a meeting between Glass and the suspects, ultimately culminating in the arrest of 5 persons, the felony convictions of 4 suspects, including 3 life sentences. More importantly than the arrest and the convictions, due to the compassion and dedication of these employees, Jessica Sears, an Armada Township resident, is alive and safe from these individuals that were plotting to kill her. On Wednesday, July 18th, 2012, TSO Beakey, Detective Sharp were recognized by the Fraternal Order of Police in Mount Clemens for their service and their professionalism. Their service and professionalism is also recognized as above and beyond the call of duty by the Armada Police Department and the Village of Armada Board. TSO Beakey. Certificate reads, Certificate of Appreciation awarded to Julie Beakey on this 23rd day of July 2012 in recognition for outstanding patience, persistence, and compassion in developing information pertinent in the investigation, arrest, and conviction of the suspects relating to the murder for hire in Armada Township in March 2011. Your outstanding professionalism and dedication to service are appreciated by the Village of Armada.
Thank you very much.
Good time. Thank you.
Detective James R. Sharp. The certificate reads, Certificate of Appreciation awarded to James R. Sharp on this 23rd day of July 2012 in recognition of outstanding professionalism, knowledge of criminal justice, and your exceptional resources that allowed for the successful investigation, arrest, and convictions of suspects related to the murder for hire in Armada Township in March 2011. Your outstanding professionalism and dedication to service are appreciated by the Village of Armada. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Chief.
Too bad we couldn't give a certificate to the guy that called.
I know, but
So much for being
I don't think that guy actually wants to be known. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have our administrative reports tonight. We have our F&V report, treasurer's report. I don't see Chuck here.
Chuck's not here. He sent me an email. He had a family issue that came up during the middle of the day. Did everybody have the opportunity to look over their packets or their information here? Any questions? There's only one call out, no problems. They resolved it. Flows are low. Obviously, we haven't had much rain lately. There was mention, and I think I've talked to you guys before about the air compressor being switched over to air cooling. They shut off the water line, they capped it, and it's early, but it's only been, what, 3-4 weeks? But the water usage is down to a minimal bill now. So they might actually have to send a minimum bill to the sewer plant. When we first came on, that bill was 20-some thousand a year. So if we can get it down to $100, that's a substantial savings. The flip side is it impacts the water fund, but it allows us to have more money in the sewer. So that's good news.
Then you just wasted less water.
Really, yeah, it's more energy efficient, but I mean, as a whole, it's not going to impact us, but the sewer fund could really use the money.
We'll also increase our truck capacity.
Yep. So I do appreciate the work from F&B to identify that. We thought it was just the pumps, but I'm glad that they didn't give up and they found the other issue. If there's any questions, let me know. Send me a text or call me. Not text, an email or call me, and I will get it to Chuck. Okay.
Any other questions on the F&B report? Any liaison reports?
Oh, yeah. Got it. Just going to touch quickly on the CDBG projects, the sidewalks. We are ready to put that out for bid, the sidewalk portion. I think we're probably ready to go with the Eurotech bid also. I've been in contact with Carrie and the county about what they needed in the letter that they asked me for. I think we're pretty much there. I was still waiting on Andy to get me just a percentage for the Eurotech. Other than that, I think we're ready to go. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we'll be putting that out for bid, and when they come in, obviously council will be the board to approve the lowest qualified bidder.
Also, Michelle put out some calls for other municipalities and communities that used Eurotech.
Yes.
She's gotten some pretty good reviews on it.
Actually, those people should all be hired by Eurotech.
Yes.
They all had
Rave
great
reviews.
Unfortunately, the first few that I got, they were municipalities, which was what we wanted, but only one of them had used them for sidewalks. So Eurotech sent them to Andy, who gave them to me, from just mostly like condo complexes and that have used it for sidewalks, and they can't say enough. So it seems to be a really good product. So that's where we're at with that. Do you have anything you want to add, Andy?
No.
Okay, all right, well, that's where we're at. So we'll hopefully be ready to open bids at the end of August, maybe the first meeting in August. I mean, we got 3 weeks between the meetings, so we'll see where we're at. Or award a bid, not open, award a bid. So that's where we're at, just FYI.
Any other liaison reports? Okay, hearing none, we're moving on to consent agenda. We have the approval of the regular council meeting minutes of July 9th, 2012, and payment of bills. Is there anything anyone would like to remove, or is there a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Stewart, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Wallach. Any other discussion?
Madam President, I will abstain from this.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And Mr. Ballard is abstaining. Okay. Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to old business, we have our Spencer Street update. Everyone received a copy from Mr. Ballard, and Mr. Ballard, this is your agenda item.
Well, you received from me here at the meeting, Spencer Street pay estimate. I do want to give you the update before we go into that, if I may. The construction is mostly completed. The punch list has been developed. The drainage issue is being negotiated with the contractor. The second pay act has been received and reviewed by the engineer. Again, downtown sidewalk, concrete raising, Michelle gave you that. And I'm the engineer and street commissioner, DPW, no, the street commissioner wasn't there.
But they met with a pothole repair contractor, had a demonstration, DPW talked, director, to talk with the contractor about having them come do more projects within the village on an annual basis. So that's, the gentleman in, supposed to make it, I couldn't make the meet, but Ed, the engineer will. Okay. We have a few things to be done on Spencer Street. We have to repair the shoulder, there's machine wheel marks in the road, grind down HMA where the road pavement meets a concrete driveway approach, and that's at a specific 3 addresses. You have to re-ditch so water can drain off the drive at one address, and with restoration, to re-ditch so water can drain off the drive at another house. The HMA drive approach at another house holds water, low spot in the drive, they have to fix and replace it. Remaining work not completed, remove and replace drive approach at one house and restore. They have to replace one, that is not here, at another home down there. Construct a storm drainage system, and then we have to do an pavement drive approach at a house and restoration. So punch list is that. We received a pay app here that's been reviewed by Giffords.
Never mind my scribbles on the front.
I'm not worried about that. Contracting for the Spencer Street project. The total payment requested is amount of $114,868.48. Appears to be in conformance with the work completed to date based upon site observation, inspection, and reports. Giffords Webster recommends the payment of said invoice to the contractor, JP Contracting, for work completed thus far. So, with that in mind, I would like to make a motion to pay James P. Contracting $114,868.48.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Ballard, support by Mr. Wallach. Is there any other discussion?
Why did we not have the one driveway done at Prospect and Central?
Because that's where they're gonna have to put a drainage system through there.
Oh,
Why put it in, tear it out, put it back in?
they just look kind of forgotten.
No, I had talked to them.
And how much do you think we're gonna go over on this project?
So it look like we're gonna go over any. I mean, at the present time.
Well, I like the punch list idea too. I mean, it was nice of you to read it
Oh,
to
yeah.
us and keep us up to date. I do appreciate that.
I mean, I
Lyle,
spent,
can your motion is just to pay James P. Contracting $114,868.48. I mean, you want to say for pay application?
for pay
estimate
application
number
number
2,
1 and 2.
or-
This is just
No,
number
this
2.
is just
I'm
number
sorry.
2.
Number 2.
Yes.
So for pay application number 2.
Number 2, correct.
Mr. Wallach, you still support that?
Good.
Okay, it's gonna be a roll call vote.
Ballard,
Yes.
Wallach,
Yes.
Sturrit,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes.
Body,
Yes.
Haver? Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
I have one more comment. Your seed roll things. Not-
Oh, the mulch blanket.
Yeah, whatever that is, that's not working well.
Alright,
never do.
Everybody's going on, rolling them and putting them back where they belong, and the next day they're rolled over in the neighbor's yard and across the street, so grass seed is still in them, but they're not working well.
Alright, we'll look into that.
What did you call that, a mulch blanket?
Mulch
Yeah,
blanket,
mulch
yeah.
blanket.
Now, does that dissolve? Is that biodegradable, or is that one of them that you've got to remove after it starts to grow?
I mean, it will biodegrade, it's just straw and grass seed, but
Because like some of them on Fulton Street are still there,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's not gonna
no, mine's.
go away.
Does it have the nylon in it to hold the straw together?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so that's not
Not
biodegradable.
gonna-
That's not
gonna
gonna
No,
go
the
away.
straw
Agreed.
goes away, but the nylon
You gotta
doesn't.
wait until that all goes away, then you.
They call that erosion control structure.
Yeah, they call that, get clogged in your
And I
mower.
said, yeah, it's called destruction of your lawnmower.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to new business, our first item is the PLT Four Corner Sale. This is the village clerk's agenda item.
I have Mr. Honey here. You may have to talk, you may not. We'll see how it goes, okay? There's something you want to add?
Sure.
Welcome to it. This is just in line with our special event policy that was approved by council a few months back. I had a young woman come in and pick up an application for them. Unfortunately, I didn't get the application back in until today. Normally, you know, we may not, they're in a time crunch. Pal Camp comes up in what?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Their weekends are very minimal that they have, and we have 3 weeks between council meetings. What they're requesting is just some time on the main corner of Fulton and Main on Sunday from 9 in the morning until 4 p.m. And what this does is it helps raise money to help pay for kids who can't afford to go to camp. It helps them be able to go. So I have everything, we've gotten everything, I talked to the chief, everything is in line, it's all here. So,
Does anyone
all
have
it
any
needs is council
questions?
approval.
You guys have any questions?
No?
I'll move to approve the application by ARMADA PLT for a special event permit on July 29th, 2012, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Motion by Mr. Conan, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next agenda item is auditor's engagement letter. And this is my agenda item. I thought so.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my husband might have an issue with cancer, but, anyways, everyone has the letter there from McBride and Manley. It's for the audit services for the year ending March 31st, 2013. I believe this is the same amount as what it's been in years past, is it?
13 or 14?
No, I believe from last year it's $400 more than last year.
No, this is for, not for year ending 13, it'll be for year ending
Nope, it's 13.
13?
Yeah, because it's from this point till that point.
Correct.
It's for the next fiscal
For year
year.
ended March 13th.
All right, 31st.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Last year I brought up that maybe this ought to get bid out, and it never went anywhere because we didn't have hard numbers. So I took the liberty of going and finding them from the MML. They have best practices numbers, which are targets for what an audit should cost. Now, they don't go into ongoing service issues, but best practices for a municipality of our size are anywhere from 10 to 14,000 annually. And I guess I just wanted to know when we're gonna bid this out. I mean, I know in insurance, in my industry, things get put to a committee usually and reviewed every 2 or 3 years. And since I've been on the board, I don't think this has been reviewed. And I don't have any problems with the service or auditing they've provided. I think they do a fantastic job, but the service market is very soft right now for professional services, whether it be insurance, auditing, consulting,
When you
legal.
compare apples to apples though, what I mean is we do get additional services from them.
Correct.
Absolutely.
We do a monthly basis. When you set your number, did you take that into consideration?
The state filing.
The state has best practices numbers that they should be, and we would have to determine how much extra service we're getting and build that in, but I don't have a problem with their auditing or service. I just think if it hasn't been reviewed in a decade, maybe it should get put to review. We don't have to engage an auditor tonight. We could put it off for 2 weeks and the village wouldn't burn to the ground.
But the number you gave was for what again?
That was best practices numbers for a community of our size when you look at.
For an audit or for a whole package?
For an audit.
Is that with all our infrastructure as well? Because we do have our own sewer plant, our own water plant, where other municipalities of our size do not have.
Correct. I
that.
looked
And our
at,
own police department.
I looked at
A lot of
ones
things that make it
between
very
1,000 and 5,000. That were the numbers that were available.
Mhm.
So
Like,
it's just
so-
based on community size, it doesn't take into account.
The services.
Well, it takes into municipalities, not that are incorporated or run a, it's MML, so it wouldn't be townships, that don't have any, that have minimal.
Well, you do have villages out there that don't have their own police department.
Right.
that don't have their own water department, don't have their own sewer department. So, I mean, well, Chris, how long have you guys been auditing for us?
I want to say 1978, 1979.
I want to say earlier than that. Before
I know it was mid to late 70s somewhere.
I mean, yeah, I'll tell you, I'm satisfied
I'm extremely satisfied.
with McBride.
We are always in compliance. Everything is
Always.
filed on time.
Yes.
Any questions that we have, we can call. They've never billed us an additional dime for anything. I am extremely satisfied.
My
with the
concern is
service.
similar with the sewer issue that we talked
Exactly.
about, is you go and bid it out, you're gonna get a low ball figure, in my opinion. And then, one year, you're either gonna get crappy service, you might get good service, but you might also get terrible service. And then they're just gonna start increasing it exponentially.
Right.
and
We've
that's
gone through
my
that
fear
several
is, I
times
mean,
with those contracts.
Here we have a $400 increase, which to me is reasonable, in my opinion, given the cost of living.
Yeah.
I'd hate to bid it out, and then, same with the sewer, you guys could come back and say, I bid it at 30,000.
Now,
Now you're stuck, and now we're costing the village money.
It
That's
just
my
doesn't
concern.
seem right to me, though, that we'll put out a bid, we'll go on Mitten, or we'll look for 5 bids to buy a, van or a dump truck. We spent a lot of time trying to find a $20,000 van, but here this is services $20,000 every year, and we're not, at least trying to do our due diligence and take a look out there. I mean, I'm not saying we, switch, I'm just saying maybe it should be reviewed.
Well, Harry, at this time, you can start looking, you have all the information there. For next year, you can look at it and bring us all those figures in January, and then we'd be fully prepared to discuss it.
Well, that's what I did last year. You told me to get numbers and I found a range, but
But we
without
never
going.
brought it to council.
and you need to make that range fit better, though. That's what Michael's saying, apples to apples.
Yeah.
You've
Well, the
gotta
difference
make sure that
between
the services
Romeo
that
and
we're
Marlette and Emily City and, Richmond, all of them are, and Memphis, all of them are a little bit different, but you can
If
get a
you were-
general range.
I'm probably the most qualified to
You
review
are.
this. So if you want to give me the names of who you have talked to, or the municipalities that you are concerned are within the same type of municipality that we have, and I'll call them and talk to them myself and kind of get a general idea of what services they have, what they use, if their auditor files their reports for them.
I think we have
Basically-
Stork did this before.
I she did too.
I saw the spreadsheet.
Actually, I don't think we have done it. Incidentally, the people that are doing the sewer department, that came about as a competitive bid. We had another company that did it, we put out a bid, that's how we did get them. We've had them for now like 10 years. But, we're always trying to save money, and all Harry's asking for is a competitive bid, and I don't think that, but I think a competitive bid is not necessarily calling up Romeo or Richmond or Memphis, but I think a competitive bid would be to contact
Firms.
other firms to say, to tell them what we want and to see what that would cost. Now, I don't want to change either, and you've been here longer than I have, and I've been on the council quite a while, and everybody's always been extremely satisfied with the service you provided.
But I mean,
And I
there's
think only Harry's trying to confirm here that, yes, we are spending our money wisely, but I think you have to
But
have
you can
other
get
auditors.
burnt, you can get burnt with that too. I mean, there's another municipality here that is paying next to nothing for
That's what they're
services,
getting.
and look at the mess they're in.
I guess you could always get burnt, but I mean, when you go out on competitive bids, you could ask Jeff, and you go out on competitive bids, you tell the people what you want out of them, they bid that back to you. Maybe we would have we're so used to dealing with you, and you're so used of, you know our business very, very good, and you know how to help us, that we would have a tough time putting a bid package together. I guess if you want to get some comparisons, you could talk to like Richmond or Memphis or something, but to get a true bid, you have to tell another accounting firm what you want out of them and ask them to bid on it.
And the MML has a a template we can use for a professional service bid where we don't actually put it in the paper, but we would contact like Yo and Yo or what's the other one, Plant Moran, and we would give them a detailed outline. We'd cull through the best proposals we had and then maybe select 2 to present.
And what's good, Plant Moran doesn't do it for free. So at what cost is it gonna cost us to do all this, more than the $400?
All I know is
For
I've
that
been.
same savings, we've got probably the most reputable accountants in Michigan.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't wanna
No. And I'm
cut
not
off our
quite-
nose to spite our face because we're gonna spend a fortune to try to find somebody better. And
And I'm not saying
Like
they're
if
doing
we
a bad
do
job.
roads, I'll tell you what, I've had that company that did Fulton,
Main
South
Street.
Fulton. I would have taken that company every time and not bid it out. Yet when we bid it out, we got it cheaper from another company. I don't know if it's better, but I really liked the company that did that
But see,
work.
that's the bottom line.
Right.
Is it better?
Well, right.
We
I
don't
guess
know
you
until
never
we
know
do
till
it.
you look. You know,
I will
I'm
do
just-
what kind of, whatever.
I don't
we
think
can do
Harry
I
should be
can.
criticized for
No, I'm
trying
not
to save
criticizing
us
you
money.
for it. I'm just saying,
Or at least to make sure we're getting.
I just don't want.
I don't
want
want to change, personally.
I think there's a stability factor that needs to be taken into consideration, but at the same time, all I know is when I've been on the board and seeing the board before me, every year, we come in, we get an audit, and we get a, nice bound audit, and then the price goes up. And I remember back in 2008,
That's not, I would have to say, over time, I don't think we've been paying more every year.
No, but-
like, an automatic.
Right.
I would have to
Well,
say
we
that's
paid-
not totally true, Harry. In my time, maybe not in your time.
well, we paid more last year, and we're paying more this year, and then we're paying, when I looked at 2008, I believe there was a comment made that, going back, that it wouldn't go up next year. Here we are.
President,
Kill.
we should have this presentation.
Well, we have, that's our next
Yeah.
agenda item.
We're still on the
This is
engagement.
one agenda item, that's the next one.
You know what, I said my piece, have the vote.
I myself, I'd like to address the issue as such.
Okay,
I've heard this for years, that we've had good auditors. We've had good rapport with these auditors. And I think anytime we get someone new, and that's all I've seen since I've sat on this board, is new fees come up all the time. And I think $400 is not a new fee. I think it's a legitimate,
Yeah, I think it's very
it's a legitimate, raise. And yes, we don't like to pay out raises, and I'm much for than not to pay raises. And we had an experience with one company which we paid more than $400. It was into the thousands, in which I was very, very unhappy. And some of you condemned me for that. And the thing is, I don't believe $400 is gonna put this council out of business. So I think spending the $400 is well worth it, and the answers that we've gotten over the years has been more than qualified.
is there any other comments?
Well, just one, our state rating kind of speaks for us, that everything's in compliance, everything's done correctly. So, if we needed to go out and get a loan, we've got the rating to do it. So, you never have to worry that that's at risk because everything is done properly.
And I would agree with you, Madam President. If you'd like to look into it not on the day we're going to do the approval. Start it now and start the process for next year. I know you looked at it last year, or you discussed trying to do this process last year, but today's the day that this is what we have in front of us.
And I don't deal with the auditors on an everyday basis, like Joe does. Maybe could we, as a board, decide if we want to do it next year, allow Joe to lead it, or,
I will do that.
okay?
And if it's, Joe will give us an update, and then if she feels that she needs to appoint a committee to help her with the work, we'll bring that back to a council meeting as well. So everyone has a motion?
I'm going to make a motion to approve the proposal from McBride, Manley, and Miller, PC for audit services for fiscal year ending March 31st, 2013, in the amount of $21,900, and to allow the president to sign on the village's behalf.
Motion by Mr. Sturd, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sturd,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes.
Bullock,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Audie?
No.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next agenda item is the auditor report. This is our auditor's agenda item.
Lucky you.
Shall you come this way or that?
Go this way.
For those of you who do not know who I am, I'm a staff accountant at McBride, Manley and Company. My name is Amy Delia. I've been working on the village's financial statement audit for the last 4 years under the supervision of Curtis McBride. I'm just going to take a few minutes here to go over some key figures that you'll find in the financial statements for the March 31st, 2012 year ending. Financial statement audit consists of performing procedures to obtain an opinion on whether the financial statements are fairly presented within generally accepted accounting principles, and that there's reasonable assurance that they're not materially misstated. There's two common types of opinions that an auditor can issue. First being unqualified. This means that the financial statements were fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and there's reasonable assurance that there's no material misstatements. The qualified statement, also, there's presented within, fairly presented, but there are exceptions, that there's something odd or unusual. Once again this year, we have issued village unqualified opinion. In the financial statements, you're going to notice that there are presented in two methods: the governmental or the government-wide statements. Now these recognize fixed assets, long-term liabilities. They measure net income, financial position, cash flow. The fund financial statements are more of a short-term focus. They recognize income outflows on current financial resources, so more to meet the legal requirements and budgetary needs. These are the methods and statements that I'm going to be focusing on right now. The balance sheet shows only the governmental funds. If we look at the first column in the general fund, you'll notice that approximately $500,000 or 92% of our total assets are in cash and investments. Moving down to the liabilities, there's $62,000 in deferred revenue. Now these are monies we receive from outside sources that are not available for current spending. And then there's the $66,000 due to other funds. Now these are other funds within the village, and they include not only the funds that you see listed here, but also the water, sewer funds. Moving over to what we call the special revenue funds. These types of funds receive resources that have restricted uses on where you can spend monies. We have the local street, major street, municipal street, and then the drug forfeiture funds. Again, with the three street funds, majority of it is in your cash and equivalents, and then you're due from other funds, again, within the village. The statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This is the governmental form of an income statement. So looking at the first column under the general fund, the two main sources of income are your property taxes and your distribution from the state, both of which have experienced decreases over the last few years. Moving down to the expenditures, which is typical, the two main areas that have the biggest expenses are your general government and your public safety. And for this year, the expenditures exceeded total revenues by about $27,000. So that was taken out of the fund balance, leaving about $395,000 for the general fund. Now the state requires a 10% fund balance to be at 10% of annual expenditures. For this year, it would be between 100 and 100, no, I'm sorry. We recommend between 15 and 20%, and that way you're not cutting it too close. And that would be between 100 and 140,000. As you can see at 395, you exceed that recommendation. Moving over to the the local and major street funds, all their funds are received from the Act 51 and used to repair whatever we need to do to the streets. Again, we recommend the 15 to 20% range for a fund balance. The local street would be between 7 and 10,000, and the major street between 12 and 16,000. So we're over those. On to the municipal street. Now this fund is a little bit different than the other two funds because its revenues are generated from property taxes. And the fund is designed to subsidize the local and major street. So a fund balance in the municipal street fund could fluctuate each year, significantly each year, depending on if you just completed a major project or you have one up and coming and the fund balance is larger. But again, try to keep it between 15 to 20% of annual expenditures. Looking at just the revenues for the general fund, you'll notice that compared to last year, revenues decreased by approximately 9%. And again, property taxes with the decreased property tax values, that went down about $19,000. And the state revenue sharing increased slightly. The interest and miscellaneous is another area where there was a big noticeable change. And that can be contributed to $50,000 in CDBG funds that were received last year. I mentioned that the state revenue sharing had increased slightly from last year. But if we look over the last 7 years, compared to 2006, these total revenue sharing decreased by about 14%. Now the state may have an indication that the state budget may be improving, and that's why we had the increase from last year. But there is still quite a ways to go on the revenue sharing to get back to that 2006. On the distribution to the street funds, which is your Act 51, that is almost actually up to where you were at in 2006. Moving on to the expenditures, the village has taken into account the revenue decreases because last year your expenses were down about 2%. Again, the two areas where there's significant noticeable changes are your public safety, which last year a patrol car was purchased, and then you have the public works, and then there was a new employee that you had last year, so that contributes to some of that. And then anytime you have a municipality that has a police department or the DPW, you're going to see that your biggest expense is going to be payroll related. So your wages, benefits, payroll taxes. Moving on to the other two funds that have an effect on the village, the business type funds or your water sewer funds. Your statement of net assets here is similar to a balance sheet in that it lists assets and liabilities. If you look at the sewer fund, there's approximately $500,000 that's being held in cash and in investments. But if you move down to the middle of the page, you'll see where $3.4 million is being held in fixed assets, and that's actually 86% of your total assets. So that's where a majority of everything's where majority of the assets are. And that includes your sewer system, sewer separation, machinery, and equipment. Now the sewer fund doesn't have much in the lines of liabilities, majority of it being in accounts payable, which are current within the year. Moving over to the water fund, there's $290,000 approximately being held in cash. $151,000 of that is restricted for the wharf bond. Again, just like the sewer fund, majority of the large percentage of your assets are in fixed assets, including the water system, water tower, and machinery and equipment. Now, the water fund does have a $2 million bond liability. That's for a 2004 Walleye revenue bond, and it has 12 years left until retirement. Now, you'll notice that with the business type activities, they're displayed a little bit differently than your governmental funds in that they don't have a budget fund balance. But if you look at the bottom where it has unrestricted, this would be equivalent to a fund balance. And if we look at 15 to 20% range that we like to recommend to stay within, the sewer fund is right now at 50% of annual expenditures, last year's expenditures. And at $275,000, the water fund is at approximately 90%. So again, those are way above the 15 to 20%. But even though the fund balances appear healthy right now, if you continue to have the losses, it's going to slowly eat away at those fund balances. So. And then we have the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in net assets for your income statement. Almost all of your revenues for both the sewer and water fund are generated from user fees. And the business type activities are, this water sewer are, they follow a different type of accounting method in that they have depreciation expense, which is a non-cash expense. So when you're looking at the sewer fund and see $160,000, $3,000 loss, it does include $177,000 of depreciation expense. And the water fund had $122,000 of depreciation expense. I'm going to turn you over to Curtis now. Thank you.
I see a lot of familiar faces here. A lot of you know me, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Curtis McBride. I'm the audit and tax director at our firm. I'm the partner in charge of the ARMADA job. I've been on this job for about 12 years now. Amy's pretty much been right there with me. She's been my right-hand person for the last 4 years. She's done a really great job. She did a really great job of explaining the financial condition of the village. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the things that we discovered during our audit. Just a summary of some of the things that Amy had already discussed, and then talk about a couple of concerns that I have going forward that you really need to be aware of. The first one, I want to reiterate this. The fund balance are healthy as of right now. As Amy had discussed, all of the village's fund balances are well in excess of our recommendation. And I want to talk a little bit about where we get this recommendation from. This isn't something we just pull out of thin air. The state of Michigan actually recommends that you have a minimum of 10% of your annual expenditures in your major funds, and Amy did discuss that. Also, we look at more than just the state of Michigan. We look at the GFOA, which is the Governmental Financial Officers Association, which is made up of, it's a large national organization, which is made up of a lot of other communities throughout the country. They recommend that you have a minimum in your reserves of 2 months expenditures, and in comparing the village to that, you're also well in excess of that. So I just want to reiterate that our recommendations, we're actually doing some research. These are actually from pretty good authorities. I do want to say this though, even though the general fund balance is healthy at March 31, 2012, I know this has been brought to your attention before. It is projected that the DDA fund will need assistance from the general fund to meet its debt obligation at some point in the future. As we're getting more information in, we're trying to project that out so you have that well in advance, so you're aware of this. Right now, I'm guessing probably about 3 years. I think probably, Joe. The general fund is going to start. You're going to have to start budgeting an extra $30,000 in that general fund, okay, a few years down the road to help pay for that shortfall. Okay, so it's something you have to keep in mind. Not only do you have to do that 3 years down the road from now, but you also have to be careful with your current fund balance. You know, you want to preserve that as much as you can. So when you're budgeting for 12 and 13 and 13 and 14, you want to make sure you're preserving that if you're not budgeting for $30,000 or $40,000 losses in that fund. So I just want to make you aware of that in advance.
And that it's a reverse amortization, so the payment actually gets bigger.
Correct. And, you know, I'm trying to, take that along because the DDA is going to have some capture. So, I mean, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Property tax revenues at the year ended March 31, 2012 decreased by about $19,000 from the previous year. It looks like it's going to go down about, I want to say, $40,000 because you had $360,000 in property tax revenues in the general fund for March 31, 2012. That number is going to be about $320,000. So, I mean, when I did see your preliminary or your original budget, that was on there, so you guys did budget for that. Joe did put that on your original budget. But again, it's just something you have to monitor. I have seen in other communities where the property values are beginning to go up. So, let's hope that that's hit the bottom. So hopefully, when we're talking about this for 2013, 2013 and 14, we're not saying, that number's going to get under $300,000. Just something that you all have to be aware of.
We did see an additional change after the July vote review too.
Okay.
I'll get you those numbers.
I know there was an issue for the year under audit that the DDA fund did not have a budget passed in a timely fashion in accordance with state law. And I'm certainly not up here to issue blame to any particular group, but I have to encourage you just to work together to make sure that you're in compliance with state law with passing budgets. Technically they can't expend any funds prior to the adoption of a proper budget. And the second thing I noticed with the DDA is there were a couple instances where monies were not deposited in a timely fashion, in my opinion. This is something that's not unique to the DDA. I joke and attest to the fact I picked on the village on this issue before. We generally
not that far out.
We generally recommend that monies be deposited in a bank within 3 to 4 business days for 2 reasons. The first one is, the longer money sits out there, it becomes susceptible to theft. And I'm certainly not accusing anyone of that, believe me. But that's a mitigating control that prevents that. And the second thing is just honest mistake. Misplacement of the money, gets lost, anything can happen. So the longer that money sits out there, it's susceptible to those types of risks. So we recommend anytime cash is received, that it be deposited into the bank within 3 to 4 business days. The one thing when we were going through our testing of the water and sewer billing, the controls over the utility billing need to be strengthened. And to elaborate on that a little bit, when we were testing the billing, we found 2 instances where residents were what I would consider significantly overbilled for service. And this was caught by the residents, not internally by the village. So, you really need to tighten up controls over that process. And it's something that I believe I did talk to, your accounting staff, and Joe's been made aware of it. So
that's been addressed.
And it's been addressed and corrected. This one, technically at March 31, 2012, the village was not in compliance with the state law for the investment policy. What that law requires is that all monies be invested in a bank located in the state of Michigan, and the CD in the sewer fund was actually in a bank called American Express Centurion Bank, and it has 2 locations in Utah. And what happened with that was the year before that it was in a CD with Bank of America, But I think what happened is the broker only focused on the highest interest rate, the highest rate of return, invested it in that bank. When the village received a notification of the reinvestment, it didn't indicate where it went. So the broker kind of did that on his own.
At maturity of the
Right.
CD, I mean, we authorized him to go ahead and put the
Correct.
CD up for sale, but. yeah, he
Subsequent to that, however, that has been remedied. I believe Joe moved the funds into Capex State Bank, which is obviously in accordance with the state investment policy. I do want to bring this up. When we came in for our audit, significant improvements were made with respect to accounting for transactions between funds. Basically what that is amounts due to and due from other funds, between the funds, transfers between funds. That was a lot cleaner this year when we came in than in the past, so I do want to commend the village staff. Becky did a great job at reconciling that information, so.
Becky did a awesome job.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
The DDA,
Sure.
the future debt obligation.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions for us? I know we've
Sure.
beaten someone up with a bat, but we don't have an answer. If we dissolve the DDA, would that help us? I don't think it does, but is there anything along those lines that we could do?
You'd lose the tip capture if you did that.
Yeah, you are going to lose the capture.
Right.
I mean, quite frankly, just from my perspective, you need to control the things that you have control over. Okay, so what does that really mean? Well, first of all, you probably have no control over property values. I mean, to an extent, right? I mean, it is what it is. So really, you have to control the expense side of your budget. That's how you're going to take care of that. That's where you're going to get your extra $30,000 to make up for that debt service shortfall. That's really the best answer I can give you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Mr. McBride?
Just one more comment though.
Yes.
The DDA funds that weren't deposited in the timely fashion
Correct.
were collected by the DDA,
Okay.
but not given to the village to deposit.
Okay.
They're in my private.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Right in my ear, my eye.
Madam President,
Yeah, my ear.
I would like to resolve to accept the audit for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2012, and place it on file.
There's a motion by Mr. Ballard. Is there a second?
Support.
Mr. Wallach, supported by Mr. Wallach. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you again. Thank you. Good job. The next agenda item is the fireworks ordinance. Council wanted us to bring this back. We are going to think about it and come back for further discussion on this. As it was stated before, we currently have a noise ordinance, and Jeff said try not to deter too far from that noise ordinance if we were to institute any additional changes or to look into it further, further strengthening the ordinance with regard to specifically fireworks. Has anyone had any other thoughts or comments that they'd like to discuss with council? So I'm going to assume at this time we are all okay with our current noise ordinance, that by 10 p.m. all those type noises shall cease.
The only thing is that's kind of a hard thing. You hear them go off, so somebody calls the police, and by the time you get to that side of town, where is it?
Right.
That's one of those ordinances that's almost impossible to enforce.
Right. And the state law does say that they are not able to fire them off as well. So, I mean, if we were to do anything, the state law has already had us covered. Our local law covers the noise part of it. So,
I noticed that there's been a lot less fireworks going off since we've moved away from July 4th. Maybe our stance should be to take a step back for a little bit and see if it continues continues to be a problem,
Well, I think the
or
heat, the dry weather.
becomes a bigger problem, and then address it as more communities lead the way and maybe challenge the state.
Good
Or,
idea.
you know, I don't really want to spend a whole lot of money to be the leader in this, as long as things have died down. Now, if all of a sudden, you know, you start hearing 200 fireworks a night on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, you have to take in consideration the workers, the people who do work in the Southwest. That's just my opinion, to maybe just sit back a little bit, let these other communities fight it out.
To see what the complaints come into the police department first.
Okay. All right, so we can knock that one off the agenda list then. Is there any other discussion from anyone? Okay. Next agenda item is the Morrison Street land mortgage update. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, village treasurer, this is your agenda item.
I did talk to KPAC Bank. We were currently at 5.5% interest. Moving it over to KPAC, we are not locked in, but right now he's giving me a rate of 2.5. We met, I gave him all of our financial reports and all of the things that he required to get the loan in process. He was not in today, so I wasn't able to get an update from him as to where we're at as far as papers are ready to sign. But they want the business, so we're gonna move the loan over to CSB regardless.
Way to say this too.
Yeah.
On that agenda item, Joe, do we have any other still existed? Is that the last one?
Now we have a CD, I think was Fifth Third still. That old Kent. Still call it, yeah. Still call it an old Kent.
Is it worth moving now?
Well, there's substantial penalties if you take out a CD.
You just gotta watch the maturity. date.
Right, and then you can. So that's it then?
Yeah, so that's just,
Are they gonna be flexible on the billing? I know we had an issue with Fifth Third, right, and how it get paid. Are they gonna
Right.
invoice further out, or?
right, we can set whatever payment date we want on it. That's up to us.
And we should be able to pay it right at the branch.
And there's only 2 a year. We
Okay.
can just go pay the branch.
Approximately, what's the balance on it?
57,000, I think. We've only got 2.5 years on it, so we've got 5 payments to go on it.
Well, looking long term, that's the money that's gonna be needed for the DDA.
Right.
I mean, in theory.
Yeah.
About 3%
Switch from one hand to the other.
It's saving quite a bit to 3%.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments for the village treasurer?
Is there, one more thing though, is there any benefit to just paying it off now? I know we wanted to, this council, I believe. Well, I think all but Harry was on council at the time, voted to take out a loan, but is there any benefit?
Well, you save the 2.5% interest.
Is that worth it?
2.5.
Maybe not on that.
I don't think I would recommend to do
Okay.
it, just because we've got so many variables that are coming up, and, you know, will the assessments go up a little bit soon, within the 2.5 years, you know, I'm just not sure where that DDA is gonna stand at that point.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Joe. Next agenda item, zoning ordinance amendment. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, this planning commission liaison Stewart's agenda item.
This is mine. Planning Commission has found, as things come up, we're always looking at the zoning ordinance book, and a couple items have come up, while maybe through applicants or just looking through the book, that we noticed needed to be changed. 3 of them are attached in here. It just makes sense when the book was written, you know, you put something together, sometimes you take a template, and as you go on, though, you find discrepancies of what actually is the practice. Look over your attachments. I think the one item was, let me find it. It's probably in the summary here.
Yeah, they're all in the summary.
They're all in the summary.
Page 4-5 is a change.
4-5, we moved automobile, truck, and other motor vehicle service centers. In industrial, we made it a special approval. This is for minor repair.
You're changing it to principal and taking away special.
We're taking special approval, and we're making it a principal use, so it can be done. And then we, likewise with that though, we made, you're gonna have to jump around.
The next page,
Next page.
secondhand merchandise.
No, I was trying to, yeah, that is, but I'm trying to find the other one. Major repair, it's gonna be on page 4-8. The major repair, okay, so you have minor, now you have major. Major, we're making it a special approval in C2, but it should be permitted in the industrial, because that's what the industrial is meant for.
So would that be like major auto repair?
Major auto, yeah. And there's a definition for it in the zoning ordinance.
Because before it was not, it was always a special approval anywhere in the whole village. Where we talked about that before when I was on there, that it should be allowed in the industrial section where else it's supposed to be.
It was an inconsistency in the zoning ordinance. So it was listed in the commercial chart under minor repair and major repair. So minor repair was permitted, major repair was not permitted anywhere. So under special approval land use, it could be permitted in C2 or industrial. But after talking to the planner agreed with us that if it should be a special approval in C2, it should be permitted in industrial. So that's what we did, and that's kind of how we found that.
And it makes sense what we're changing it to.
Sure.
Planning's discussed it.
And the planner was totally on board.
Right. The second item was separating pawn shops from dealers of secondhand
Page
merchandise.
4-6.
Madam President, 4-6, we just separated them, and dealers of secondhand merchandise we made a permitted use. There's been applicants in recent history where, we were looking at it, it's just, there needs to be a separation of the two.
Craft stores.
A pawn shop is different than selling reusable items. It's a different business, it really is. So here we're just separating it. Again, same thing, McKenna totally agreed with us. It's just one of those things that you find later on as you go. The third item was the sign ordinance, which we just passed. Our planning commission secretary, I believe, found out that we had one place we referenced 30%, and one place 10%, so we had to bring them in agreement. So we do apologize for that. With that being said, we need to make a public hearing. Planning commission already had their public hearing and approved this for council. So, Madam President, I would like to make a motion to set a public hearing for Monday, August 13, 2012 at 7:15 p.m. on an ordinance amending the Village of Armada zoning ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission, and authorize the village clerk to publish notice of the public hearing in the Armada Times.
Motion by Mr. Sturridge, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion?
That is the Monday of the fair. I think we would be better off to do it for the second meeting.
Jeff will be at the second meeting, not the first. I mean, we'll discuss that matter.
I didn't think it was an issue for Jeff to be here for public hearing and approving this because it is pretty straightforward. I personally would rather not wait, but if you wish to wait, then so be it. But
My only feeling is that it's a little harder for the public to get here if they're at the fair. If they want to be here. Just a thought.
Mr. Delphi?
We had nobody show up at our public hearing for it. So if they didn't come to ours, I doubt they're going to come to yours. But one of the things, once that is approved by the board, we can have our zoning ordinance. Currently, we don't have a copy of the zoning ordinance. So
But
after
Bill
the-
ransom, do we get this taken
Well,
care of?
after, because we approved it, and then we found out there was an inconsistency. So it was just a typo between the 30 and 10%, but we didn't want to go to print knowing there was a mistake. And we wanted to do these updates, so we thought, okay, let's just wait, let's do them all at the same time. So we never did print it after we did the sign ordinance and the MPA thing, the MPA, Michigan Planning and Zoning, Enabling Act, thanks. So we can go to print when you guys are done.
So, motion by Mr. Sturridge, second by Mr. Ballard. Is there any other discussion?
What year were you having it on then?
August 13th. August 13th. That's what the motion was. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Made by Mr. Cohen. Motion passes. Thank you. Next agenda item is the master plan. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, again, Planning Commission Liaison, Mr. Stewart, this is your agenda item.
I'm just thinking with that last one, it's an awful lot of pages to reprint, maybe,
Well, I'm gonna ask everybody to hold on to them.
okay.
Yeah, the next meeting.
It's a whole stack, it's a whole ream of paper.
I printed them off at this meeting, so they have time to review them.
All right, master plan. We are moving forward. Last council meeting, I gave you a timeline. Real briefly, we wanted to see if we can have this master plan done prior to November. And we still have that possibility. So what we have now, Planning Commission has spent many hours, and there's been a committee that's spent even more than that hours on this master plan. And we have reviewed it. The McKenna has reviewed it, the planners, and then Planning Commission reviewed it again. And we're pretty set that what's in this master plan is pretty good. All questions, concerns have been discussed. And at the last Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission approved sending this to council. Now, council has to distribute, the timeline here now is council, upon approval, which I have the motion later on, the Planning Commission Secretary, with council's approval, will distribute this to the other communities, and they have 63 days to review this master plan. I would like to see council review that at the same time. I'll ask Becky to PDF it to you guys. So, Mr. Wolek, if you'd like a copy, Becky will have it. And then that way, if you have any issues that you wish to be brought up, they can come with any other communities within that 63-day period. After that 63-day period, any comments that are made will be addressed by Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will make changes if necessary. There'll be a public hearing, and at that time, I'm working out with Jeff whether or not planning. What?
There won't be a public hearing.
There won't be a public hearing. I'm working out with Jeff whether council will approve or accept, the word he used. Receive is the word. And then from there, the master plan will be approved. So we have 63-day period to review this. Please use that time. Otherwise, you just delay it.
Do you set a meeting for 63 day? I mean,
We have not.
63 is a weird day, so I mean, it may
Right.
not fall on a planning commission day. Are you gonna have a special meeting for that, or?
Well, if everything goes according to Hoyle, this is July, so if you guys approve tonight, it should be sent out. So that means the end of August, we would have, or beginning of September, we would have it all back. So we have all of September and all of October to go through. So, maybe it wouldn't be the 1st of October that we'd get it back, but if we did get back, we could easily have an extra meeting to review it. I don't really expect too much because this is really the second time it's gone out. But the big thing here is the master plan, as Michael said, it kind of got reviewed by the Planning Commission 3 times in the last step. So the last step was we reviewed it, gave it to the planner, we reviewed it again, gave it to the planner, reviewed it again, and now this is the copy that you've got. So what we like to do is keep it on electronic so it can move faster. Even I've done it that way.
And he has a computer.
Don't tell people that.
Yeah.
What communities will receive this?
All the outlying communities, anything that's surrounding our area, so Armada Township. I don't know if you send it to Ray and stuff too.
I really don't know who gets it.
Doesn't the county get it?
Only Armada
There's somebody
Township
at the county.
surrounds us.
Well, I know, but.
No, I don't think that's what it means, Dave. I think the outlying
Neighboring.
municipalities, I think even like DTE gets it and Consumers Power, I think that, the county
There's
gets
a
it,
mandate
probably the
somewhere
road
that
commission.
says-
I think there's a lot of entities that get it and are allowed to have feedback. So, but once you look at the master plan, I've got to admit, I balked at doing this. I didn't like the master plan that we had. This one is awesome. You'll be amazed when you look at it. It's, I was always trying to get something that, or the planning commission, we were always trying to get something that really typified Armada, and this one does. I mean, this one does. Not only does it have the text, but it has a lot of pictures, and the pictures are all of Armada. I mean, it makes for, it's long. I mean, it's 40 pages longer than our previous master plan, but it's Armada.
You can see who took all the pictures too by the homes that are in there. Yeah. There'll be a quiz on that to make sure you guys look at it. Whose house is in
So
there?
does that mean you know all the old houses now, Mike?
No, I don't know all of them yet. I'm still a newcomer. But it really is a good reading material. If you have the chance to read it, I encourage you to do it. Some of it you might want to skim over, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. And there's statistics in there. You know, what SEMCOG says that our future growth is going to be or not grow. And it's very interesting. It really is. And if you were looking to come to this community, I think that would be a very good starting point.
Well, what the master plan does, for those that don't know, is kind of lays out the groundwork where you see the village in 10 years, where you want people to grow, what kind of businesses you want to come in, that kind of stuff. So it kind of lays a little groundwork for people moving in and businesses moving into the community as to where they're going to fit into the mold that we kind of would like to see in Armada.
And it's a lot of, we redid the statistical data. At first, we weren't going to do it, but then one of our planning commission members is a certified appraiser and has access to all that documentation. So we did that as a planning commission and not as the planner. So we did it at greatly reduced cost.
Yeah, because we were like one census behind.
Yeah, but even the 2010, that data's not out. All that data's not out. We're still using some stuff from
It won't be up
'99.
till 2013, right?
It was definitely a benefit having that planning commission member. He really did a lot of work.
Yeah, and that was Dale Smith, and he was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were really blessed with the planning commission that we had. But
Well, it says in past tense.
Oh, he's still.
No, he's still. I never got a letter.
But one of the things that Michael brought up was prior, I think it was in 2003, there was 3 or 4 resolutions passed. So one of those resolutions was that the village council has the final say on the master plan. Prior to that, the planning commission had the say on the master plan. So the 2000 master plan was approved and passed by the planning commission. The village council was brought in throughout that whole process to approve before the planning commission approved it. But now the way it stands, the planning commission doesn't approve. We just recommend to council. I'd like you to consider going back to the old way. I mean, we're the ones that really study it. We're the ones that really are going to know what's in it. And quite frankly, if all the council members read it, I would be surprised. And if anybody reads it from from beginning to end and actually studies it like we did, you guys don't have it. So
How many have you done?
this will be my second one.
Now, the one in 2000,
Was a total rewrite. So was this one.
you didn't do that one, though. You
Yeah,
did
yeah.
the one before that, right?
No, that was, the other one was done.
What was the
eight-
one that Rich and them did?
That's this one. And we totally rewrote that.
We've been doing the master plan since I was out there.
Yeah. So Richard's cost $16,000 to $18,000. We didn't use that one. We used one that cost us $3,500 or $3,400.
But I know there was a big difference with that one and the one before.
It's definitely a lot thicker.
Yes.
Because I remember when you did that, because there was a lot that went into that. There was a lot of joint meetings and
What's that?
when you did that.
Oh, yeah, we did. And with this one, I mean, we really, I like this one better than the one we did in 2000. I think it fits Armada better. And all the documentation is still there. But it's more tuned. So like each individual item, the planner was very adept at listening to what we wanted There was one thing that the subcommittee said, there was one section, and then we said this was planning 101, and we told the planner that. They totally rewrote the whole thing with our input, and now we've got, the whole plan is like that. The whole plan fits Armada. You can kind of look and see where, you know, what's listed and what's not, and where you want to go. And there's even, I was always real big on the industrial, growing the industrial section, because that's kind of the money base for the village. There's 15 to 20 pages of how to do that and how to finance it and how to put it together.
Thank you so much to the planning commission. Yes.
Absolutely, great job.
Yes.
Did a great job.
So council
Everyone
needs, council needs to think about whether you want to be the final approval in this approximately 60-some days from now, or if you want to, what's the word I said again? Receive it. So think about that. I'll bring it back up in a couple weeks after Jeff looks into it also. So take time on that.
Okay, everyone has a motion in front of them?
No, they don't have the motion on money use yet.
Oh, it's a
Sorry.
different one?
Jeff.
Okay.
Mr. Stark, just before we go
Yeah.
farther, would you probably have a recommendation as to that effect? Of that
Would I?
measure? Is
You
that
want me?
that-
I don't, I mean, it would be nice if planning just was able to give the final approval, but doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I can talk to Jeff more and see what other communities do. How about that?
Isn't
Jeff-
there a statute somewhere
Actually,
that says,
It would be the planner, it would be the planner more than the attorney as far as what communities do. The planner would know that statistic.
Jeff was leaning towards receiving it. Let me talk it over with him.
Yeah.
He called me at 5:30 today and gave me this motion. So before I give you a final answer, can I look into it more?
That's what I thought,
please?
maybe we
Yeah.
have some idea
Yeah.
before the next meeting.
Okay.
The planner leans the same.
So let me give you a motion here. Motion to approve the distribution of the proposed master plan and notify the planning commission secretary to submit a copy to the parties required under MCL 125.3841 for review and comment.
Motion by Mr. Stern, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Conan. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. That's it for our new business tonight. Are there any upcoming agenda items that we should note on her statement?
Madam President, can I have a master plan when Jeff's here,
so second meeting in
Yeah.
August?
That'll be second.
just so that we can decide?
It'll be after the public
Yes.
hearing.
Okay. No, wait. Public hearing's at the next meeting, I thought.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm
But Jeff
saying.
is
Jeff won't be
coming
here till after the public hearing.
Correct.
Yes, so you still
Second
want,
meeting.
yes, so you
Yes.
still want that on
Sure.
there.
Because we have 63 days before any motion is made anyway.
Okay.
Madam President, I'd like to carry over Spencer Street again.
Yeah, we'll keep that under old business until you also take it
And
off.
then upcoming events, I would like to have an agenda item of additional sidewalk replacement outside the DDA area. Replacement and or repair.
You're putting that under upcoming agenda items?
Yes, ma'am.
It's a good thing you put that on, I was gonna talk to you about that too.
You were. Good.
So additional
So that it
sidewalk
falls within
repair,
the 51.
I'm sorry?
additional sidewalk replace/repair outside DDA.
Outside the DDA area, it's going to be outside that
Okay,
contained area.
perfect. Are there any other additional agenda items? Hearing none, any citizen comments? Yes, Mr. Delaney.
Yes. This board and a lot of residents have, for the last number of years, have thought that the Armada Police Department was exemplary, and we felt really good about the police department that we had. The awards tonight really just go to show that, and I feel very proud to live in Armada, but I also feel very safe to live here.
I agree, I think the community is very proud of our police department.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing none, any council comments? I just wanted to let everyone know Jeff won't be here till the end of August, but I think we've already kind of touched on that one. Are there any other council comments at this time? Hearing none, any community events? Mr. Audi?
Concerts in the park.
Okay,
Wayward Wind is next,
all right,
awesome band.
We're gonna have a really good one to wrap up the end of the year.
Spidey Bottom boys.
Awesome.
They've all
With
been
food.
awesome.
With food, exactly. That makes it that much
From-
better.
From the Armada Business Association.
Like last year,
Yeah, last year's was awesome. I
Yeah,
commend
that
the
was
ABA
great.
for that. They did a great job. Had the dedication of the rock. It was nice.
What is the date on that?
It was a crowd.
Do you know?
Isn't it the 10th area?
10th, I thought.
It's the 8th.
August 8th, yes.
My birthday.
29 again?
Yes, I am, by the way.
All right.
My kids are getting older.
Any other community events? Hearing none, we don't have a closed session tonight. The time is now I can't see with that glare.
8:33.
8:33. A motion by Mr. Audi.
Absolutely.
Is there a second?
That's for sure.
Second by Mr. Wallach. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned.